You're live, Commissioner.
Good morning. This is the Board of County Commissioners Board of Work session. It is Thursday, September 29th, 2022. It is 10:04 a.m. This is set to go until 11 a.m. This is a hybrid work session and we're in Building 1, Room 280. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. Vice Chair Ty Menser is excused for today. Commissioner Gary Edwards joining us via Zoom, and he'll be in the boardroom shortly. And today we'll be discussing Solid Waste Advisory Committee update. Also in the boardroom, we have County Manager Ramiro Chavez, as well as Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, and we have Jeff Bickford and Renee Radcliffe Sinclair, who's the chair of the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, who are going to give us an update on what the SWAC committee has been up to.
All right.
So handing it off to Jeff.
All right. Well, thank you. And we do have a PowerPoint. Put those slides up. Very good. Thank you.
Hold on. I need to share the screen first.
Very good.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. As mentioned, I'm Jeff Bickford. I'm the Solid Waste Division Manager here at Public Works. And to my left is Renee Radcliffe Sinclair, which version here, District 3 representative on our SWAC committee and our current chair. So we're going to have a brief presentation to talk about some of the things that we've had going on over the past year and some things to look forward to. But first, next slide. I'll give a little background on the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. So the counties were actually required to establish a SWAC as per RCW 70A.205.110. It requires a minimum of 9 members representing a balance of interests. For our committee, we actually currently have 15 positions, so we are above that minimum requirement. Our SWAC was actually established back in 1989, so it's been around for, what, 33 years now? So a lot of good work that's happened to this committee. And really the purpose of the SWAC is to review issues and advise and make recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners on various solid waste policies, potential rules, potential ordinances, and our solid waste management plan. Good morning, Commissioner. Next slide. As mentioned, we have a fairly good-sized membership. At this slide, I kind of go over what our membership includes. As I mentioned, Renee here is our chair, and she is one of our 3 resident representatives. Our vice chair, who unfortunately was not able to make it here today, is Jim Cooper, and he represents the city of Olympia, a council member of Olympia. Our board of county commissioner representative is Commissioner Mejia, who sits on the committee as well. And then we have representatives for a number of different cities, and as well as the Port Authority. So for the Port of Olympia, we have Commissioner Joe Downing, who is currently active. For the city of Tumwater, Councilmember Joan Cathy sits on, and she's been there for a while. For the city of Lacey, Councilmember Ed Kunkel. For the city of Young, we have a newer member now, Councilmember Joseph Richardson. Another new member to the SWAC is for the city of Tenino, we have Councilmember Elaine Clam. As well as for the town of Bucota, we have Councilmember Steve Purcell. There's one city, the city of Rainier, that we have a vacancy for. So it's the one city representative that is not currently active on the committee. And then from some of the other representative positions, we have the District 1 resident, and he also serves kind of a dual role as our agricultural interest representative, and that's Greg Schoenbachler. Our District 2 resident is Richard Moon, and he's been with us for about a year now. And then we have a couple of industry type individuals. For the refuse industry representative, we have Delroy Cox. For the recycling side industry, we have Chad Sutter from Sutter Metals. And then from the business interest, another new member, we have Dave Nightingale, who is consultant, particularly in the hazardous waste side. And there is one non-voting member, and that has always been with the Department of Ecology. They have a representative that shows up, and our current representative is Laura Busby. With that, I'm going to pass the baton to Renee, and she's going to go over some of the issues that we've discussed over the past year plus.
Thanks, Jeff. Just very quickly, once we wrapped up the solid waste management plan and it was approved by all of the jurisdictions involved, we were eager to move on to some new things, including an update of our solid waste advisory committee bylaws, which the Board of County Commissioners reviewed and approved. We also took a look at the options for how the work is going to be reconfigured. That's a pretty exciting project, and we're eager to see how that progresses. We also provided feedback on the proposed South County Transfer Station stakeholder engagement process. That one's particularly near and dear to my heart because I'm a self-hauler. And that's been a fun project to watch as well, and we're eager to see how that plays out. Next slide, please. We also took a look at a draft compost procurement ordinance that I believe you all have had a chance to look at as well. We watched activities as the legislature took on their business this year and provided feedback on some of those items. And we participated in what feels to be the never-ending process of the Open Public Meetings Act training. I've been doing that for 30 years now. It seems like it does never end. So next slide, please. So here's what we're going to be taking a look at in the months coming up. We're continuing to watch what's happening at the WARC. As I said earlier, that is an exciting project, and we're eager to see how that plays out to better serve the residents of Thurston County. We're also continuing to watch what happens in South County with a proposed new transfer station. And we will continue to watch ordinances as they come before us for updates and revisions, et cetera. And we're really taking a look at climate mitigation actions and next steps. And I just want to say, Jeff didn't add it to this slide, but we're also really interested in how education efforts are moving forward, sharing information with county residents about how they can be better stewards of recycling efforts and the waste we are creating as a county. But I have to very quickly say that working with your staff this year has been just incredible. The team that is supporting the Solid Waste Advisory Committee has just been exceptional, and we're really grateful for that because, as you can see, we're getting a lot done now.
And we're opening up for questions.
Yeah, Jeff will answer all the hard ones.
Thank you. Great. Okay. Commissioner Edwards, do you have any questions, sir?
Well, fortunately, I've had a stint on the WAC committee on the work, so.
2 years, right?
Yeah, and I know the chair is a current member, so I don't have a lot of questions because I think you folks are doing great.
He got us through the solid waste management plan today.
So, no, I don't have any questions, and thank you for everything that you are doing, and I believe we have a showcase process here in Thurston County.
Yes, I will definitely agree with that. I don't have any questions either, but again, just wanted to thank both of you and the SWAC committee because I think conversations are always very insightful, and I always appreciate just hearing the different perspectives and the different thoughtful questions that come up. Even from our community representatives, they're so involved, and it's always great to see. And we've seen how effective SWAC is as we went through our solid waste contract, and that was a huge heavy lift. And I thought it was such a fair process that came through the other end. So just really thankful for all the time that you really put into this. County Manager, I saw you put your hand up.
Yeah, just a quick question. This year, we got I can't remember the House bill, it was related to food compost.
Yes.
I think you
House
guys
Bill
are
7.
reviewing an ordinance related to that, is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, and actually, that was mentioned, reviewing the draft. It's the compost procurement.
Oh, is that the
Yes,
compost
yes.
procurement? Is that the, okay, got it.
And they will actually be they had their first discussion and then look at it at September's meeting, and it'll be a topic for discussion because there were some edits made based upon feedback from the SWAC. So that
Any reaction to the bill? I'm just curious because I can probably read the bill and have a little different perspective than perhaps all of you have more involvement in the.
Sure.
Perhaps before you do the feedback, you could give just a very brief synopsis of what the
Yeah.
bill is for anyone
Yeah, that'd
who's
be good.
watching.
Okay, so HB 1799,
There
which
you
is
go.
the Organics Management Bill, was very broad.
Yes.
It had a lot to do, it's really it hit in a lot of different places. The issue that we're talking about here specifically, as is one piece of it, is there is a requirement that jurisdictions, particularly counties, watershed managers, need to implement an ordinance regarding procurement of compost in the big public works type projects where you would use that, such as landscaping, the stormwater management, as far as if you're doing we're in any application where compost is an appropriate use, I should put it that way. There's no set number or quantity that you need to use, but it's just that you need to strive to use that when you're doing those types of projects, and it has to be in an ordinance. And they put a goal of that ordinance needing to be implemented or put into place by January 1st of 2030, of which virtually no jurisdictions are going to meet that because
2023?
because it was just such a short time frame. And ecology knows that, and they provided a model draft ordinance, which we based ours upon the model draft. So basically it says that we're striving to utilize as much as we can, assuming that, it's cost competitive, it's available, and there's a couple other criteria to meet that. So and that will be back at the SWAC to re-look at that at their meeting next Wednesday. So that's one piece of HB 1799. A lot of it, another major one is really pushing to create a reduction in the amount of organics going to landfill. By 2030, a reduction of 75% from what that volume was back in 2015. So based upon waste characterization, whatever that tonnage was in 2015, they want, this is statewide, they want to reduce the amount that went to the landfill in 2015 by 75% of 2030. So they're really pushing to have more, curbside pickup of yard debris and food waste available. We're actually, in our county, we're in very good shape with that because curbside pickup of yard debris is available countywide through LeMay. So not all counties are set up that way because we know they're much more rural. So it's going to be probably a trickier piece for some other jurisdictions than for like King, Pierce, ourselves. Probably what will affect us more is the requirement for commercial businesses to also, if they produce more than a certain amount of that volume, which ratchets down over time of yard debris or food waste, they will be required to then at some point have curbside type service. For initial, if I recall, it starts out in a couple of years, if you create 4 yards or more per week, then you'd have to subscribe to that service. So and then it ratchets down to 3 yards, 2 yards, eventually over the years. So it's probably the biggest change here for us in that aspect will be for the business people that are out in non-cities, in the more rural-ish areas. But I think a lot of it's available for commercial businesses in town, but a lot of them don't subscribe to it, but they may be required to. And then it touches in a bunch of other areas about about organics processing and guaranteeing that there's a place for those materials to go, which again, we are in good shape because we have the availability of the material collected to go to the work, to get reloaded and go to a compost facility. So, but again, there's plenty of jurisdictions that don't have a compost facility nearby. That's going to be problematic, but there are some opt-outs for some of those jurisdictions based upon expense and distance to facilities.
When I was reading the bill and related to the restaurants, it seems to be, a requirement. It always struggle with the enforcement aspect. And I don't know how this, the ordinance will come to address that because that seems to be a high bar to achieve in terms of enforcement.
Yeah, I think that would be as far as for the collection there, I don't believe we would be the enforcers of that. Probably either UTC or ecology. Maybe the cities in the jurisdiction, but the ordinance that we've been talking about, the compost procurement, is real specific to just, we need to purchase if it's appropriate, strive to purchase compost to use in our projects. We need to educate, which we do anyway, on the benefits of using and buying compost. And then we need to report. That's right now, initially, it is the report. We have to provide annual reports to ecology on the amount of organics that we sent away, that we collected and sent away. So that's easy. We have that data from what we get at the work. And then how much we purchased over that year. I mean, that's trackable because we would have, that'd be through our purchasing, we would know. So that's what we have to report. So this ordinance is particularly targeted. And it's not.
And a very
to the
small piece
wider
of
aspects.
the bigger bill, yeah.
Because I believe the jurisdictions will have to follow up with their own ordinance.
Potentially, yeah. That's a little fuzzier for as far as whether
Yeah.
cities have to do their own. Typically, it falls more on the wayshed, and we're the broader wayshed managers.
Jeff mentioned that the SWAC took a look at it and had some suggestions to it. And we have several new members of the SWAC. I think I'm in my third term now, and I've never seen the group as energized and so engaged as they are right now, which I think is really gonna get to you a good product.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Good. Commissioner?
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead, sir.
I guess just as a follow-up on everything you're referring to, including this 1799, I just thought I'd take this opportunity again to compliment staff, I guess, and the group about development of the contract that we've just entered into. And the reason I say that is, in the end, we even got a letter of support from the opposition that it looked like a pretty good deal here for the county. And I don't know if you remember my comments way back when. I said, let's hurry up and sign this before somebody changes their mind. So that goes to recognizing the hard work, that went into making all this happen. And I guess, I'm looking at several things down the road, well beyond my time. We're currently a carbon-based economy when it comes right down to it, and we're making a change. We don't know exactly what that change is gonna be, but an example is, electric vehicles and all of that type of thing. I'm hoping that as we move forward and develop new technologies, maybe to eliminate some of the need for that space. I mean, I think, I don't know, is it 1799 that directs a 75% reduction or something from 15? Was that what it was?
Correct.
I really think that as we move forward, and you mentioned enforcement, that we can do better with the carrot than we can with a stick. And I'm hoping that change can evolve without the hammer, because I think it's a smoother process. Might take a little longer, but less aggravation, more acceptance, that type of thing can take place. So I just think you guys have done a great job, and it looks to me like.
And what you said about turning garbage into power is a good point, because it actually is. Because our waste goes to
And I think
Roosevelt, and they
maybe
do
now that the
generate.
contract is signed, executed, and done and over, maybe a good opportunity for the board to visit that facility.
Do you know, if you haven't visited that facility, it's amazing. And they're doing exactly what you're talking about, Commissioner Edwards. They are turning our waste into power, and it's pretty impressive to see. And they're, to your point, Romero, they are doing a lot of things right now that are really cutting edge in the energy front. So it's cool. Yeah, it's cool.
Well, I think that as far as reduction of food into the waste stream, the county's done a lot of innovative things in the last five to 10 years. And one of the things that's a benefit to restaurants that it's my perception we've put in place is an opportunity that restaurants can have their food picked up and to deliver to our food bank and our shelters. And rather than becoming waste, the food is actually used and delivered to people in need, so.
And that's a good point, and that hits on something that was in HB 1799, was if they were gonna try to, there were some changes they were making to remove some of the impediments to doing exactly that because of concerns from some restaurants and others about liability.
Right.
So the major effort to get edible food into food banks and being used instead of out and out of the waste stream, because
Right.
well, that's really a waste, you know, when it could
Such a
potentially be
waste.
consumed. So for hunger relief, I mean,
We invested
absolutely,
in
that's a big one.
refrigeration equipment on the
Yeah.
food bank.
Oh, good.
Right, absolutely, it was 3 years ago that we
Yeah.
helped replace all that equipment.
Yeah.
Specifically to accommodate that food.
Yep, and there was a van purchased
Yeah.
at one point and a lot of things. So I think that building on those kinds of initiatives is exactly what's gonna get us to that 75% reduction.
And I think it goes back to Jeff's point, that perhaps that bill didn't have much of an impact to the county because we're already there, in a way.
Right.
You know, I think it will be a little bit of an uplift, but not as much so the counties perhaps.
Right.
Yeah, Unified counties in particular, it's gonna be a little more troublesome, because it's a long haul to get to an organics facility, because they thought of, you know, it's wide open, but a small population, and there's facilities are a long ways away. It's just not economical for sometimes to do those types of things.
Right, but I think that programs like that also get to Commissioner Edwards' comment about it's a carrot, not a stick. Will we help our restaurants to dispose of their food in an appropriate way rather than into the trash?
And not just restaurants, the other one is like
Grocery
grocery stores,
stores.
because they'll have it
Yep.
past the date,
Huge,
doesn't mean it's
huge.
not, they'll pull it past the date, but it's still good.
Yes,
But they're terrified because of the liability issues, but so that's part of the piece of this is to try to pull that back so that we release them from liability, because that's, a lot of this stuff's packaged. I
Yep.
mean, totally could be consumed.
Agreed.
No, great conversation. Thank you. Okay. Anything else anyone would like to add?
I'll just jump in really quick. I went up and give my appreciation to Renee and the rest of our SWAC team, because I'm telling you, they're great group of people, a lot of good questions. That are, you know, all eager and anxious to help out and help solve our problems. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Renee.
It's a good group, as you know, it's a good group right now. They are
Yeah.
very engaged.
Okay. 10:28 p.m. Ramiro, before you close the Zoom, I need to speak with you, but we are adjourned. Do not close the Zoom yet.
Okay, so